Hey everyone, welcome back. Over the last few weeks, we have seen a number of news stories that have showcased the GOP's increasing contempt for the fundamental principles of democracy. To cite a few examples, we saw the North Carolina state legislature take its independent state legislature theory all the way to the Supreme Court, where thankfully they lost. We learned that Donald Trump allegedly was much more directly involved in trying to overturn the 2020 election results in Arizona. And next month in Ohio, we have a special election where the Ohio state legislature is attempting to essentially strip Ohio citizens of the ability to propose ballot initiatives. Now, we could talk at length about any of these topics, and if you have specific questions, please leave me a comment. But instead of talking about that today, I want to talk about what inevitably happens when someone points out the fact that an increasing percentage of the Republican Party is a threat to our democracy. And that is that some Ben Shapiro type comes along and says, no, actually, we are not a democracy, we are a constitutional republic. Now, obviously, this argument is childish and pedantic, but if you forgive me, I want to engage in one of my favorite vices, which is to take unserious people seriously. So in this video, we're going to break down exactly why that argument is childish and pedantic, and then we're going to talk about why they keep making it, despite the fact that it is childish and pedantic. So, let's jump right into the argument. Is the US a constitutional republic, or is it a democracy? And the answer is that it's both. By its definition, a constitutional republic is a form of democratic government where citizens vote for elected representatives who then vote on their behalf to pass laws. Now, this isn't the only form of democracy out there. You could also have direct democracies, constitutional monarchies, non-constitutional republics, etc. Really, the only factor that ties all the different types of democracies together is the idea that the authority of the government is derived from the consent of the governed, and that consent is expressed through some kind of electoral process. So, in the US, we vote for president, we vote for our senators, our representatives, our state and local governments, and then we essentially entrust them with the power to vote on our behalf and to execute a more direct democracy at their level. Additionally, if you look through the history of US politics, you'll find people of almost every ideology and political affiliation referring to the US as a democracy, as it's just a convenient shorthand for people to talk about the democratic principles that underpin the ideals of our constitutional republic. Now, whether we've lived up to those ideals or not, that's another story, but 99% of people get that whenever someone is talking about the US democracy, we're effectively referring to the US as constitutional republic. However, for people who do feel the need to make the argument that, no, we're not a democracy, we're a constitutional republic, they're either naively or intentionally missing the point. So, if this isn't a good argument, why do people keep making it? Well, firstly, it does sound pretty intellectual as long as you don't look too closely into it. But secondly, and more importantly, it gives them the ability to deflect from the increasingly large authoritarian streak in the Republican Party. Take, for example, independent state legislature theory. Under this theory, state legislatures would essentially be able to disregard the voters' will when it comes to elections, and instead decide results that the state legislature likes. Now, this is obviously contrary to the democratic principles of our constitutional republic, and is pretty obviously indefensible. So, instead of defending it, people will instead deflect to this other argument, which is simply semantics saying, oh, well, it's not a democracy. And usually this is tied to a straw man where they infer that you were claiming that the US is a direct democracy, which, again, given the way that we use democracy in common speaking, we know that's not what anyone means. So, it's just one of those things where they're being deliberately obtuse and trying to shift the argument into a place where they think they can win, as opposed to trying to defend the indefensible. And I also think for a lot of people, they're just uncomfortable with confronting the idea that their party is becoming more authoritarian. And it's more comfortable to get into that minutiae discussion of, oh, what does it mean to be a constitutional republic, and can this independent state legislature theory be worked into that framework, when it is very obviously contrary to the fundamental principles of any democratic government, including our constitutional republic. This argument is always a big red flag for me, as it shows that the person I'm talking with isn't interested in actually talking about the issues, they're just interested in arguing relatively pointless semantics, and that they can't actually defend their position, because if they could, they would. So, If you're ever talking to someone and they start making this argument, you can give it one more shot and try to explain to them what I talked about in this video, but if they keep making the argument, that's probably your cue to walk away. Think about it.